Ever wonder what it really takes to achieve, immense financial success? Beyond all the flashy headlines and the get-rich-quick stuff, well, today, we're doing a deep dive into the life, the philosophy, really, of Warren Edward Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha.
Right. He's consistently up there, top 5 richest globally year after year.
Exactly. But his story, it's so much more than just like a blueprint for making money. It feels more like a masterclass in, well, thinking long-term, disciplined investing.
Humility, too.
Yeah, humility and ethical business. Really core stuff.
And that's our mission here, really, to go beyond just the headlines. We want to pull out the foundational principles, maybe some surprising insights from his journey.
Sort of a shortcut to understanding the man behind the billions.
Precisely. Because it's not just about the money, it's a mindset, a set of values that kind of permeate everything he's done. Our source material today, it really traces his path. From this incredibly precocious kid right up to being a billionaire philanthropist. It's a masterclass in his approach to business and life, really.
Okay, so when you look at someone like Buffett, it's easy to think, okay, genius just arrives fully formed.
Right.
But the sources suggest the seeds were planted, well, remarkably early. And in pretty simple ways, right?
Yeah.
What did that first entrepreneurial spark actually look like?
Yeah, it's fascinating. It starts back in Omaha, Nebraska. He was born August 30, 1930. His dad, Howard Buffett, was a stockbroker, later a congressman, so finance was definitely around.
Okay, so it was in the family.
It was in the air, yeah. But Warren's own business sense, it showed up almost immediately. Get this. At 6 years old, 6, he's buying 6 packs of Coke, and then selling the individual bottles for a profit.
At 6.
Wow.
Yeah. I was probably focused on, not spilling my juice box at 6.
Right. And then, by age 11, he makes his first stock purchase. 3 shares of City Service Preferred. $38 a share.
11.
And as a teenager, he's running multiple small businesses. Selling gum, delivering papers. He even had coin-operated pinball machines he was running. A mini mogul already.
That's incredible. It really shows you sometimes those big lessons come from, just simple practical stuff.
Yeah.
Getting your hands dirty. But those early experiences, crucial as they were, they still needed shaping.
Right. Grounding
and some deeper knowledge.
Oh, absolutely. And that's exactly what you see next. His focus on education, seeking out the right mentorship to really solidify his philosophy.
Right.
Interestingly, he actually got rejected by Harvard Business School.
Really? Buffett?
Yep. But he was determined, got into Columbia Business School. And that was, pivotal. Because there, he studied under Benjamin Graham.
Ah, the father of value investment.
The father of value investing, exactly. And Graham's whole philosophy, rigorously buying companies that are trading below their true underlying worth, their intrinsic value. That became the absolute bedrock, the foundation of Buffett's entire approach to investing.
So Graham was the key influence early on.
Undeniably.
Yeah.
After Columbia, he worked for his dad's brokerage briefly, then directly for Graham himself at Graham-Newman Corporation.
Wow, working for the master.
Yeah. Then, in 1956, armed with all this, he goes back to Omaha, starts Buffett Partnership Ltd., and listen to this, with just $100 of his own money.
$100?
$100,
yeah.
Plus about $105,000 pooled from family and friends. It just highlights, find the right mentors, build that strong theoretical base. It's crucial.
Okay, so this is where it gets, for me anyway, really fascinating. The vehicle for all this wealth, Berkshire Hathaway.
Right, the textile mill.
Exactly, a failing textile company. Your first thought isn't future multi-billion-dollar empire,
Not at all.
But he didn't just invest in it. He did something, kind of audacious with it. He totally reshaped its purpose. What was that move? Why was it so revolutionary?
Well, that's where his genius for capital allocation really, really shines.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was totally against the grain. He started buying shares of Berkshire in the 60s, even though the textile business itself was, frankly, terrible. He takes control in 65. Now, conventional wisdom, try to fix the textile business.
Not around.
But Buffett,
he
wasn't interested in textiles. He saw Berkshire Hathaway as, a shell, a vehicle, a way to move capital out of that dying industry and into good businesses, high-quality businesses. So he transformed it from a textile maker into a holding company, used it to buy other businesses, invest in securities.
So he basically redefined the company itself.
Completely, making the structure more valuable than its original product. It was counterintuitive, brilliant, and it set the stage for everything that followed. Billions followed.
An incredible pivot. just using this old, struggling thing as a launch pad.
Yeah.
And his investment philosophy itself, it often sounds so simple. Deceptively simple, maybe?
That's a good way to put it. Deceptively simple.
Yet, obviously, profoundly effective. Can you kind of break down the core ideas? What defines his approach?
Yeah, if we connect it back, it boils down to a few key principles, things that really set him apart. First, it's value investing, like Graham taught him. Buy companies when they're on sale, basically, when the market price is way less than their real worth.
Looking for that bargain.
Exactly, not just chasing what's popular. Second, long-term focus. This is huge. He invests in businesses that have durable competitive advantages, moats, he calls them.
Right.
And he holds them, not for months, not even just years, decades. He ignores the short-term market noise.
Patience again.
Immense patience. Third, quality over quantity. He wants strong brands, great management teams, predictable earnings, businesses you can actually understand.
Okay.
Which leads to the fourth, his circle of competence. He rigorously sticks, to investing only in businesses he thoroughly understands. You won't see him jump on the latest tech fad if he doesn't get the fundamentals.
Makes sense.
And that's why you see the famous investments, right? Coca-Cola, American Express, Geico, later on Apple, even big infrastructure like BNSF Railway, media like the Washington Post.
Yeah, things you can wrap your head around.
Exactly. And these are actionable principles, not some complex algorithm. That's why they're so relevant for anyone listening.
So thinking about this for you listening, when we look at Buffett's own wealth growth, especially how it exploded later in life, it almost seems magical. Like there's a hidden force. What's that silent engine that really supercharged everything?
Yeah, the silent engine. That's the magic, truly, of compounding. It's critical and honestly often underestimated.
How so?
Well, it's not about getting rich quick. It's about letting time do the heavy lifting, letting your returns generate more returns. Look at the milestones. By age 30, he's worth $1 million.
Okay, impressive.
Impressive, yeah. By age 60, his net worth is around $3.8 billion.
Wow, big jump.
Big jump. But then, by age 90, over $100 billion.
Whoa.
The vast majority of that wealth piled up in those later decades. Why? Because of the sheer power of compounding over all that time.
So it's really about starting early and just letting it grow.
Starting early helps massively, yes. But the key is letting time work its wonders. That consistent growth, building on itself, it's powerful.
A powerful lesson in patience, definitely. And speaking of evolution, even the greats benefit from partnerships, right? And tweaking their strategies.
Yeah.
Charlie Munger, Buffett's longtime partner, is almost as legendary.
Almost, yeah. Munger.
What was Munger's big contribution? How did he help refine Buffett's thinking?
That's a really important point about complementary thinking. Charlie Munger was absolutely pivotal. He really pushed Buffett, especially moving him beyond what they called cigar butt investing.
Cigar butt, what's that?
It's the idea of buying these dying companies really cheap just to get one last puff of profit out of them before they, extinguish.
Okay, like finding value in literal scraps.
Sort of. But Munger strongly urged a shift. He said, let's focus on buying great businesses at fair prices instead of just fair businesses at wonderful prices.
Oh, quality over cheapness, basically.
Exactly. Quality became much more central. And Buffett himself credits Munger heavily for this. There's that famous quote worth remembering. It's better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than a fair company at a wonderful price.
Great quote.
It really underscores how even the best minds benefit from sparring partners, from different perspectives, continuous evolution.
Now, you'd think someone with that kind of wealth, the stereotype, private jets, mansions everywhere.
The usual trappings.
Right. But with Buffett, it seems like the opposite is true. What does his actual lifestyle tell us about his core values?
It's pretty remarkable, honestly. Beyond the balance sheet, his personal life is incredibly modest, grounded. It really clashes with that image of extreme wealth.
How so?
Well, for starters, he still lives in the same house in Omaha he bought back in 1958.
Still, after all this time.
Still. Drives regular cars, not flashy luxury models. You'll often hear about him eating fast food, drinking his daily Coca-Cola.
Loves his Coke.
He does. There's just no pretense. No big show of wealth. And maybe just as important, his relentless pursuit of knowledge. He's a voracious reader, spends like 80% of his day reading, apparently.
80%? Wow.
Yeah, and he credits that habit, continuous learning, for a huge part of his success. It just shows, integrity, a really grounded approach.
It definitely adds to the whole picture of the man.
Yeah.
But okay, ultimately, legacy isn't just what you build, but what you give, right? And Buffett's made philanthropy a massive focus later in life.
Absolutely. His commitment there is, well, extraordinary isn't too strong a word. Back in 2006, he made this landmark announcement, his plan, to give away 99% of his wealth.
99%.
99%, mostly through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And then he co-founded the Giving Pledge with Bill Gates.
Right, encouraging other billionaires.
Exactly, encouraging them to commit at least half their wealth to charity. And his personal donations to date, over $50 billion.
$50 billion. Just staggering.
It really speaks to his core belief, I think, that knowledge and wealth is most valuable when it's understood and applied effectively, including applying it to help the world.
Okay, so let's boil this down. What does this all mean for you listening right now? Buffett's legacy, it's clearly way more than just making money. It's about integrity, patience, discipline, wisdom, really. If we had to list the core lessons from the Oracle, what would they be, I'd say? 1, start early if you can and be consistent.
Crucial.
2, invest in what you actually understand. Stay in that circle of competence.
Yes.
3, live below your means, doesn't matter how much you have. 4, always think long-term. Resist that quick win temptation.
Patience.
5, be honest, be ethical. Seems obvious, but fundamental. And finally, maybe the biggest one, keep learning, never stop.
Never stop learning. It's so true. Buffett's story, it's just such a powerful testament, especially today, in this super fast-paced world, to how patience, simplicity, discipline, these things can consistently outperform even the most complex, frantic strategies. It's about playing the long game.
Right.
And like Buffett famously said, and it's worth ending on this, the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient.
Powerful.
So maybe something for you to think about. What areas in your own life, maybe beyond finance even, could benefit from that kind of approach? Long-term, patient, disciplined, something to chew on.